cannot work remotely.
Yeah. All right. So today, like I said, I think that only Chris and Maria were on when I said that. Today we're gonna see module 15. We're gonna go through a lot of troubleshooting steps to solve problems, and that arise, sometimes when you are architecting and things like that. And after we finish, we're gonna take an exam, practice exam for that. Okay. And we'll just in the long run now, in the final lap of the course. We only have 1 week to finish the course, so we only have Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and that's it. The course is over, and your exam is going to be next week probably, or the week after. There's some of the students that scheduled the exam for the 29th in the afternoon or in the morning, I'm not sure. And other students scheduled the exam on Saturday. But most of you guys scheduled it on Monday or Tuesday, which is the 29th or the 30th. Most of you. How do you feel for the exam? If I may have an answer. How do you feel?
I feel
nervous.
Yeah, I feel like I feel a bit nervous just because it's like ending. So it's kind of like that song from Eminem, like you only have one shot or one chance or something like that. So it's a little nerve-wracking. Unlike most certifications that you can just take the same version of it again, in like a day or 10 days or whatever. Like this is really like, okay, cool, we only have one shot.
Well, if you don't feel sure yet, confident, you have me, and you also have a cloud group, which I guess you have, guys, right? Miami the college provided to you guys, right? And maybe you
That's
can.
what I have been using.
Yeah, so maybe,
and the notes from the class.
Yeah, maybe you can go over. Probably they. All right. If you don't want to go through a CloudGuru, the same guy, one of the CEOs of CloudGuru, he created a course on Udemy. Of course, CloudGuru is free for you guys, and this one is $12. But this is the guy, Ryan Cronenberg, and Faye Ellis. That's the other lady that works with him in all the courses in the CloudGuru. So he gathered all the information and put this in a 14.5 hours on-demand video. So right now, which is very frequent, they lower the price, but like it always happens, tomorrow it may be 109 or probably 34.99 or 44.99. I don't know, sometimes 98.99, but right now it's 12.99. Okay, it's a course that you can keep there, forever, and use it of some friends, or maybe when you do the professional, you can go back and revisit this content, which is very important, like the basis for the professionals class or exam. And this guy here, he gathered all the information, to help you pass the exam. Like I've always said, it's not the same as a live professor that you can ask questions. This is just watch and take notes. That's it. You can ask questions in the FAQ. I think they call it an AFNA, what? Question and answer, Q&A, right? But they may take a while to get back to you. And as you are on the clock, because you have a few days after we finish on Friday, you cannot wait for an answer. So I guess that with this guy, going over the notes that you took in class, digital cloud, there's no way in this world that you would not pass that exam. But like I said from the beginning, you have to put in the time and the effort. This exam is passable, very passable. So this is another resource that you can take advantage of. But I think it's pretty new because I hadn't seen it before, and it's a bestseller, so people like it. I don't highly recommend the exams from a cloud guru. They're very superficial, very simple. Okay, that's my own opinion. Okay, but you know, we're gonna take John Bonso's exams, and also you can go ahead and take the, you know, on your time. Combining John Bonso and digital cloud, believe me, you have a very high odd of passing that exam. I'm talking about more than 90%, right? I can guarantee you that if you take those exams, you're gonna be ready for the actual exam. They're pretty similar. And
The digital one?
The digital one plus John Bonso. John Bonso, right here. Right here. John Bonso. Okay. Right now it's $10.99, but it's usually $30. So here. So for some reason, people start. I don't know. I think it's probably Udemy. I'm not sure how this works, but for some reason, everybody lowers the price at the same time, and everybody, you know, increases the price for the same time. I don't understand that. Probably it's a Udemy thing, or I don't know. I don't know what to tell you. Okay, so back to the module. What's in this module? Part 1, troubleshooting steps. Part 2, AWS support options. Okay, so the objectives of the module. Upon completion of this module, you will be able to troubleshoot common errors, discover various AWS support options available. Okay, now troubleshooting common errors. My instance connection timed out. What do you think about that? When that happens, what do you think that might be the reason why?
Security group.
Okay, that's one of the main reasons. Okay, so there's some things that you have to check. Okay, so what steps should I take if my instance connection times out? Okay, so the first thing that you have to do is check the routes, right? It's a routing table configured correctly, right? You know that every single subnet has a route table, right? And depending on the route table on the subnet, if it is private or public, it's going to have a destination, it's going to have a target, right? So which one do you think is this route table? Do you think this route table is in a public subnet or a private subnet? When you see this route table, what do you think is a private subnet or a public subnet?
The below one is a public, upper one is a private.
We only have one, only route table.
No, there is 2 IP addresses.
Yeah, but those are 2 entries. It's the same route table, right?
So it's a public.
Route table with 2 entries.
It's a public.
That's a public. Why do you know it's public?
It's 000 internet gateway.
Correct. It has a target. The target is the internet gateway. Okay. So,
allowing all traffic. It doesn't matter. It's everything.
That's right. So we're actually, what is allowing all traffic is the internet gateway, right? And then this subnet has a destination to the internet gateway. So all the traffic is coming through the internet gateway, okay? Remember, when it comes to the internet gateway, there's one thing that is stopping the traffic or allowing the traffic. What is it?
Net.
The what? When it comes through the internet gateway into the subnet, there's something there that is going to allow or deny the traffic. What is it?
Network access control list.
The NACL, right?
Yeah.
And when it comes into the NACL and it's allowed, and then it comes to the EC2 instance, what is going to allow the traffic or deny the traffic?
Security group.
The security group. Okay. So first thing we have to check if the routing table is configured correctly, right? if there's no destination and target for the internet gateway, it's going to time out. There's no access to the internet, right? So public subnets that need internet bound traffic routed to the internet gateway, they need that. If there's no internet gateway, there's no traffic from the outside world. That's why the private subnet, nothing from the internet has access to it, because the private subnet doesn't have an internet gateway entry, like a target, right? So if you're using a virtual private gateway, it's your VPN routed correctly. Remember, this is when we have a VPN side-to-side connection, right? And also when we have in direct connection, we need a virtual private gateway. We need a customer gateway and a virtual private gateway. So are they configured correctly? Either for VPN side-to-side connection or a direct connection. So you have to make sure that you're using the correct routing type for your VPN router, dynamic or static, okay? So that's the first one. Another one that we have to check is the security group rules. If there's a particular port open, let's say you're trying to access your app from the browser, if port 80 is not open, it will time out for sure. It's gonna be spinning, like loading, and nothing will happen because there's no port open to allow traffic from the internet, right? From the browser. So instances need both inbound and outbound rules permitting traffic. Remember that security groups are stateful or stateless. Stateful or stateless?
Stateful.
Are you sure?
Security groups.
Yeah, stateful.
Are you sure about that?
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
I'm very sure.
Knuckle is stateless.
It is stateful.
Right. So a security group, it keeps track of the stateful, right? That's why whatever comes in goes out.
Yep.
Right. So, like I said before, you enter my house, you show me your ID, you just stay in my house for a while, and then you come out, I know who you are. So you don't have to show me your ID again, right? Same thing with the security groups. So with our rules, security groups deny all traffic by default. So by default, there's nothing coming in, okay? You may have port 22 open, but that's for SSH. So sometimes when you create a security group, it opens port 22 by default, okay? So don't leave your security group completely open, right? Publicly accessible hosts should be behind another layer of access that offer control, a DNS, AWS WAF, ELB, all these guys, domain name service or system, AWS WAF, web application firewall, or elastic load balancer. Remember, when we have an elastic load balancer, you can allow the traffic to the EC2 instances only from the elastic load balancer, right? So you have like another layer of security. Nothing coming into your instances that is not from the elastic load balancer will enter. Nothing. So remember when we create an EC2 instance and we have a bootstrap script, like for example, to print, this is hello from this EC2 instance. Remember using an Apache server? Remember when we install that in the user data portion of the EC2 instance? By using the public IP of the EC2 instance, we can put that in the browser and then in the URL search bar, and then we will print whatever that script had. But instead of using the public IP of the EC2 instance, I can go to the security group of the IP of the EC2 instance and open port 80, but only from the elastic load balancer. So whenever that happens, I can grab my IP address, my public IP address of the EC2 instance, and I put it in the browser, and it will not work. It will time out. Why? Because the security group has a target and a destination of the elastic load balancer. So the only way that I can access that EC2 instance is by putting the DNS name of the elastic load balancer. and then I can access the EC2 instances. So that's another layer of security for the EC2 instances. I think there's a video that probably some of you guys have watched it. I put it on YouTube, how to register some EC2 instances to Elastic Load Balancer, and then access the EC2 instances using the DNS name of the Elastic Load Balancer. Okay, this is another thing that you have to check. You know, the network ACLs or NACLs. You have to verify that the NACLs allow traffic to and from your computer. Is NACL stateless or stateful? Are they stateless or stateful?
Stateless.
Stainless. Stainless.
So they need both.
Stainless.
Right. So they need both an inbound rule and outbound rule. Okay. And remember, outbound rules are they are set by increments of 100, right? They start with 100, 200. So that we have a number for every single rule. They have a number, 100. Do you have an idea why is an increment of 100? Do you have an idea why?
No.
No?
No. This word I don't know.
Okay, so when you create the first rule number 1, you're given 100, and then rule number 2, 200, 300. So that's an idea that AWS came up with, because along the way, you may have other rules that you may create, you know, and then if the rule is going to be right after rule 100, then you leave that range between 100 and 200, and then you give it a number 101. So it's for similar traffic. Okay, so rule number 1 will not be 100 and number 2.
You do that in binary.
Go ahead.
You do that in finance when you're doing class list for financial transactions.
Yes.
You do it every 100.
Yes. With the same purpose?
Just to let you know.
Is that with the same purpose? That there may be
With
other...
the same purpose. So let's say the same purpose. So let's say you have an expense related to rent, for example. You might have a warehouse rent, you might have an office rent, you might have... So the idea is that within 100 and 200, you have 100 line items that you can add under that main category.
Correct.
For tagging expenses. It could be anything. It could be expenses. It could be for income. But the idea is for you to easy tag and be able to find things easier.
Good. Yes. So similar is in AWS. You may have, you know, it's like leaving room for additional rules along the way. Okay. So that's why they decided to, you can do 100, 101, but it's not recommended. It's recommended to go, increments of 100 for you to be able to add more in the future. Okay. Now, and they are read, from the beginning rule all the way to the end, to the last rule. So that's the way they're read. So if there's a deny, let's say traffic from this particular IP is denied, and then you say another rule that says traffic from this particular IP, which is the same IP, is allowed, it will not be allowed. Deny has a preference more than allow. Okay, so if there's a deny rule before and there's an allow rule from the same IP, deny will be, taken into consideration over allow. So that's very important. Okay.
I have a question about this deny that you're talking about, because I have seen that sometimes they talk about a hard deny, a soft. Might be using the wrong words, but that there is different levels of denied.
Is it a hard deny or an explicit deny, an implicit deny? Okay,
there you go. Okay.
Okay. So, but that's for IAM policies and all like that. By default, security groups are explicitly denied.
Okay.
Implicitly denied. Implicitly is when it can be changed. and explicitly is when someone came and changed it. Okay, so let me say that. Let me see that. One moment. Okay, an implicitly deny is when user or group are not granted a specific permission in the security settings of an object, but they are not explicitly denied either. Right? The explicitly deny is when the administrator, you see, when someone comes and has selected the deny option for a permission for its user or group. Right? You know that by default, there's no traffic into the EC2 instances, right? That's implicitly denied. Now, when you come and open port 80 only, it means that all the other ports are explicitly denied because someone came, an administrator came and selected that. But this is mostly used for permissions, user permissions. It's more, this terminology is more used in IAM, right? When you grant permissions or deny permissions in a policy, you know, when it comes to users and groups and roles. Right?
Okay. Thank you for the explanation.
Okay, so verify that Yanaco allow traffic and for the computer. If applicable, check your corporate network's internal firewall, port 22 for Linux instances and port 3389. What port is this? Does anyone know?
RDP.
Terminal Windows Server.
It's
RDP.
right here. It's right here. Remote
RDP.
desktop.
Both for Windows.
Yeah, there's some ports.
Like SSH for Linux is this is for Windows.
Yeah, but this is yes, exactly. It's like SSH, but it's remote desktop protocol, right? Guys, there's some ports that you have to remember. There's no excuse for some ports. You have to remember 22. You have to remember 3389. You have to remember 880. You have to remember 443. You have to remember 5432, which is Postgres. 3306, which is MySQL, Aurora. So you have to know all those ports. That's very important, okay? Although in real life, you're gonna have some assistance. You're gonna have Google, right? You're gonna have your computer. You can internet, you can Google whatever port you need, right? Your best friend is gonna be Google. That's your best friend, either a programmer, a solutions architect, an engineer. Google is gonna be your best friend. There's so many solutions that people have found, people that went through the same situation you're going through, they found the solution and they posted it on the internet. So if you're, like I said, if you're a programmer, developer, you know, solutions architect, IT professional, Google is going to be your best friend. There's sites like Stack Overflow that's very helpful. There's WW3 School or 3W3 School.
Yeah.
That's for right. Is one.
That's like for programming. Well, programming in general, like JavaScript, HTML.
Bootstrap, you know, got JavaScript as server side.
This is very useful. I've used this before.
Yeah, this is very useful. This is like, you know, it's like school for all the programmers and people that work with technologies. But it's also for scripting, you know.
So is 3389 for everything Microsoft servers, Microsoft SQL servers, WVT server and Windows Remote Desktop. Wow, this is like the port to talk to Microsoft, basically.
So, Brian, can you say something about this from the security standpoint? Anand or Dubois? assume that is
don't use RDP.
Yeah.
Don't use RDP. There's always some vulnerability of RDP. Like if you're gonna use RDP, I wouldn't recommend like making sure that there's at least a security group where it could port forward it to a different port, and then from there you RDP in. It doesn't necessarily have to be 3389. You can actually just forward it to a different port, like a random, like 5,000 blah di da di da. But yeah, no, when it comes to RDP, it's very for the machines that don't require like RDP, like let's say a server side firewall. I don't know, something along the lines of like something you will never touch. RDP should just be turned off. You should never use that. For things that you have to remote in, maybe you're trying to do that Windows client thing that they were showing, where you can run a fully Windows client off AWS. Like, sure, you can. I would recommend it, but like I said, I would just port forward it to a different port, so that you don't. Because there's always I'm being honest. There's always vulnerabilities found with RDP. Like it's hilarious at this point.
Yeah, it's just this port is vulnerable to denial of service attack against Windows NT terminal server. And it says here,
has anyone created a workspace? You have a free capability of creating a free one for Windows and Linux. Has anyone created one? See how this is?
AWS?
Yeah, with AWS through Workspace.
No, I mean I was going to at some point because I was actually genuinely interested, but then I felt like I've looked into it and people have told me it's not a complete, like it works, but it's not a complete, it's not like Citrix, where you host a Citrix server and then like, what I'm saying? Like you just stream it. Like this is literally being streamed to you via like North Virginia. So it can be a bit like iffy on the performance, but as a technology, it works. It works. And so eventually I was going to test it out, but I haven't tested it out anytime soon because, I have a computer.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay, so continue. You have to make sure that your instance has a public IP. Sometimes it doesn't, right? Sometimes it doesn't. So try to make sure that when you create EC2 instance, it has auto-assigned IP address, right? So if you forgot to give it one, you can attach an elastic IP. This could be a solution. If you don't have a public IP, you can have an elastic IP address attached to that EC2 instance. Remember, when you have an elastic IP, if it is only one, you're not going to be charged, right? And you don't have to stop the EC2 instance or restart it. You can just attach it and that's it, right? When you stop the EC2 instance, the elastic IP will stay there. It doesn't disappear. We've seen in the past that when you stop an EC2 instance, it's reassigned. The instance is reassigned a new IP address, right? But when you have an elastic IP one, you don't need another one. They're going to stay there forever until you detach it and then release it, right? So actually, you don't say attach, you say associate. So you associate the elastic IP and then release it, because if you keep it, you might still be charged, right? So you have to disassociate it, because you're going to be charged either for an IP address that is an extra IP address that is associated to other instances. You're going to be charged for that. For the first one, you're not charged, but for the second one, you are. Or if you have an IP address that is not associated to a running instance, then you're going to be charged too. So you have to disassociate it and then release it for someone else to use it, right? Make sure your instance has a public IP. Check that the CPU load on your instance, check that. It may be overloaded, so you may need to have some auto scaling there, right? Can you imagine you have a lot of traffic and you have only one instance and it's coping with all the traffic? It's hard. So your instance or your, it may time out, Use Amazon CloudWatch to check CPU use, and your instance is overloaded. Consider scaling up to a larger instance type. or scaling out to more instances running in parallel behind the load balancer. I recommend scaling out over scaling up, right? Because when you scale up, you're less highly available, okay? It's just a matter of understanding how much each option is gonna cost, okay? And how available you're gonna be after that. All right, so another issue that you may come across is my network performance is poor, okay? So what do you think it will be the cost of this? What do you think it might be the cost? It's okay not to know. Okay, it's okay. So we're gonna do now. So consider changing your instance type, right? Maybe you have a T3 micro, and you need an extra large or a large one or a medium one, right? So, you know, your network performance is gonna be poor, really poor, right? So you need more capacity. Are you using an instance type enhanced networking? Okay, you have the choice to do that. When you create an instance, I think that somewhere here, I think that I'm gonna have to authenticate this. So I agree with that when you create an EC2 instance, right? There's one section there that you have to think that oh, this is what I talked about the other day, that you can request the spot instances when you purchase when you create the instance, right? No, in this section, what you do is enhance detail monitoring. That's what you do here. Okay. So, so check if your instance type has enhanced monitoring. Enhanced networking provides high performance, packets per second, low latency, and low jitter. This is just in case you have enhanced networking. Gonna cost you more, because you're gonna be, you know, faster, right? If you have using a NAT instance on Amazon EC2, doesn't need to be scaled up to a larger size. That's another guy. And what is the NAT instance used for? If you remember, guys?
A IP address.
I'm sorry?
Connectivity to private subnet, to internet.
To or from?
From to internet. Connect private network to internet.
To the
outbound.
internet.
Outbound.
Yes, to the internet from the private subnet. Okay, right. So AWS NAT gateways is equipped with handling high network throughput needs. So this is another need, another reason why you would go for NAT gateways over NAT instances. Okay, so if there's a lot of high network throughput, NAT gateways can cope with that. Okay.
A question about this statement. If I have a 10 instance in a public subnet and NAT gateway, we have assigned IP, elastic IP for 10 servers and the NAT gateway, public IP.
Can you repeat that again, Omar?
Yeah, I have 10 instance for web server and one NAT gateway in the public subnet. I have to assign by IP address 10 IP public for the instance and one for the NAT gateway. 11 IP public.
Yes, of course.
Wow. so expensive.
Every single instance needs to have a public IP. It's not the same public IP for all the instances. Every computer has a public IP, right? Do you think your computer has the same public IP as mine? Do you think that all servers have the same public IP?
Yeah.
You think so?
Sorry?
Or you think that your computer has the same public IP as mine?
No, my example is I have 10 web servers in a public subnet, for example.
Yeah. Each one has.
Every server need a public IP, elastic IP for every
Oh,
EC2 instance and in that gateway.
oh,
That's my question.
If you're using an elastic IP?
Yeah. For every instance, for the NAT gateway.
Yes.
Okay.
But you don't need to use an elastic IP. It's just a choice. If having a different IP every time you stop a computer is a problem, then you have to use elastic IP. You know what I mean? If you want to keep the same elastic IP, the same IP address every time you stop and restart an EC2 instance, then you have to have an elastic IP. Because unfortunately, it will reassign a different one every time you stop it. Okay.
Okay, thank you very much.
Another one is, if used, make sure Jumbo frames are enabled correctly. If one instance has a Jumbo frame enabled, make sure all instances, including NAT instances that it communicates with, also have Jumbo frames enabled. Jumbo frames can carry up to 9,000 bytes of payload, but variation exists and some care must be taken using the term. Okay, in computer networking, Jumbo frames are Ethernet frames with more than 1,500 bytes of payload. The limit set by the IEEE institution is a 802.3 standard. That's the standard, the limit set that they have, like 1,500 bytes of payload. Okay, this is for more probably more heavy duty EC2 instances. So far, we haven't used this, and we're not going to use it ever, in our, private account, like personal account. We're not going to use that because that's going to cost you some money. But if you want to know more about Jumbo frames, maybe you can research that. I'm reading here that they were introduced to help improve the overall performance of Ethernet networks using gigabit and faster Ethernet networks. Enabling Jumbo frames increases the frame size, reducing the number of frames the switch needs to process, and reduces the overhead and CPU cycles needed on the switch.
That is a Jumbo frame.
That's what I'm saying. It's an internet frame with more than 1,500 bytes of payload. And they were introduced to help improve the overall performance of Ethernet networks. Yeah, they're Ethernet frames.
Okay. I haven't seen this concept. So is this a selection on a specific type of instances?
No, they have that enabled. They have Jumbo frames. Guys, Brian, you study networking. Remember the concept of frames?
Yes.
Of packets?
Yes.
Can you elaborate on that a little more?
Okay, so when packets are being sent, they're being packaged in a certain way, right? So they have like a certain time to live. And I believe I don't really remember, right? I can't remember on a spot like exactly the size of a normal frame. Like it's a certain amount of length, but I know that a jumbo frame is essentially you increasing the normal capacity of a frame to hold more information in it. Problem is with jumbo frames is that it has to be configured on both sides to be accepting, like to accept it. If not, like one side will get overloaded by the frames and it won't be able to properly like I guess you could say like accept the traffic. And that's I guess the most I can say on jumbo frames. Like jumbo frames are great, but it's a little tricky when it comes to I guess I want to say an AWS because that means all instances at that point would have to have jumbo frames enabled to properly run. I don't know if Nat or John Paul want to add more into it. I don't know. Maybe they could explain it a bit more better than me.
No, I mean, like you said, the most important part is that it has to be set up on both sides. If not, it's going to create a lot more headaches than anything else. It's really not going to work.
Oh, the professor left.
Oh, he did?
Yeah. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, jumbo frames are essentially a size. It's like the cake. It's like, do you want a small cake? Do you want a large cake? Like, if you want one large cake, like you made the door for small cakes. If you know what I'm saying?
But what is it? Is it an actual?
It's like a payload. It's like an amount of
bits. Bigger frame. It's a frame that allows you to get more information
like out
through at one time. Remember that frames are usually small, and you have
like,
tons of them.
They're like 1,500 bytes, something like that.
1,500, yeah.
So is it a soft frame? Is it a soft capability? Is it a hard capability that you're providing?
No, it's essentially like all you're saying is, for packets, right? For communication, you only have a certain amount of like bits you can not teleport, but communicate through a network at a given, like, let's say a given millisecond, right? You can send maybe like one packet, right? One frame, right? And let's say that one frame is 1,500 bytes, right? And you're like, this is not enough for my point-to-point communication, right? Like my servers need to speak and to be able to communicate like super quick, and they need to be able to relay each other, like like if, let's say for redundancy purposes, right? You're trying to get two servers to be replicated all the time, right? So you have a main server and then you have like maybe two split small servers, right? You might want to do jumbo frames so that the main server, in the event that it went down, right, you have at least as close as possible, right, in terms of the same information being spread out to the other two, right? That you would probably want to use jumbo frames, right? That you would be like, oh, instead of 1,500 bytes being sent for every frame of packets, you know what I'm saying? You can use a jumbo frame, and a jumbo frame can go up to like, I think 9,000, right? Like the reason that, the way I remember that, it's just like a Dragon Ball Z reference, like over 9,000, that's it. But the problem with that too is just that the problem with jumbo frames is that if, like I said, the two endpoints, like the two point to points are not configured
the same,
yeah, they're not going to accept the traffic. They're going to have a lot of conflict issues. And the problem with it being on the cloud is that I don't even think you would be able to realize it until you actually looked at the data between them. Because at least on a premise, right, you can test very quickly, like, oh, did it arrive? Did it drop? Did it die? Like, was it too far? Like, was there maybe someone cut a cable? Like, in cloud, it would just be an automatic, like, just make sure you just did that off the top of your head, so that they can properly communicate, like instances and stuff like that. But yeah, no, jumbo frames is a very rare thing. From what I've been told, it's very rare to see. You would only see it in like massive servers that need to constantly be pushing out packets and information to one to another, and then just leave it like that and don't ever touch it again. Like they enable it, configure it, don't touch it again.
Yep.
Pretty much.
Guys, I got disconnected. My computer froze again. I didn't have time to let you know. Then I'm back. Yes, what you're saying is true, Brian. And also, the packet contains, so a frame contains, the destination, the MAC address, destination MAC address, source MAC address, destination IP, source IP, all that, all the content that has been transferred from one computer to the other one. So Jumbo frames are packets that are longer than the standard ones. The standard ones have, let me see here, it's 1,518 bytes. So they're longer than that. They're called jumbo frames. It's like Brian said, me, myself, I haven't seen jumbo frames that frequently. Even
so it's only supported for C3s, G2s, I2, M3s, and R3s instances.
high performance.
So this is the heavy duty ones, huh?
Yeah.
I still want to understand how jumbo frames from a physical perspective gets implemented. Is this only soft implementation? What is the physical implementation of this? Is it a different type of network card, a different type of network configuration from a hardware standpoint?
Yeah. And you have to enable them. You have to enable jumbo frames. And the instance that communicates with that other instance that have jumbo frames, they need to have jumbo frames enabled too. So all the instances communicating, they need to have jumbo frames enabled. Right. So also you have to consider the VPC endpoint and AWS private link where possible. All right.
Yeah, I'm reading about that in this. I have a link here. Very interesting how they explain this.
So connection between VPC resources and Amazon S3 will likely be faster if they're using an Amazon S3 VPC endpoint instead of traversing the internet. Traversing the internet has its own disadvantages, right? But when you are in the AWS backbone network, that through private links, that's going to be faster because there's no interference from the internet. Right? That's one solution that you have to check. Another thing, another error that you may have is my input output to my Amazon EVS volumes is too low. All right, it's too low. So the solutions for that, you have to review your instance and EVS types, right? You have to check if it is general purpose or if it is throughput optimized, if it is cold, those guys. So EVS optimized instances types are designed for applications with heavy disk I/O. So these are the ones. So let me see if I can go back to my console. All right. So we come here and I have to log in again because my computer restarted. Okay. No, I don't have to log in. Good. That's good. Still in the session. All right. So when you create the instance, if I click here, are you implementing this already, guys? Did you pin the services up here? That's going to be very helpful for you.
Uh-huh.
Yep.
Yeah, I did.
Yep.
So if I come here, then when I choose the instance type in the second page, I have here the family and the type. So the family, general purpose, and the type here. Go down, compute optimized. All these guys are, they are designed for heavy input output, performance, right? Because you have here, this is the network performance. Those guys, they have, up to 25 gigabits per second, 50 gigabits per second, 75 gigabits. That's super fast. Have you ever downloaded a movie? Never?
I mean, yeah.
Legally speaking, right? If you do 10 megabits per second, that's gonna be super fast, right?
You could probably download a Blu-ray movie in like 30 seconds, like 30 seconds maybe.
30 seconds, 1 minute. And can you imagine 100 gigabits per second?
Oof. You could probably
That's
download a 4K in like a minute.
So you have these guys here, computer optimized. you even have, you know, all kinds of network performances here. Okay, so all these guys are designed. This is for memory, right? But EVS optimized. See if it's in here. Storage optimized. All those guys, they are designed for high performance, right? So you have to check if your instance is EVS optimized. Okay. Now, are you using an EVS type with high input and output, like provision IUPS? So maybe you can consider provision IUPS SSD. It can provision up to 32,000 IUPS per volume. Remember, general purpose provision up to, can you tell me that? General purpose, it provisions up to 16 IUPS per volume. Okay, so if we come here, let me see. If we create a volume, let me see here. I think that if you see it, it's much better. Come here to the AC2 instance dashboard, and then we come here to volume. If I want to create a volume, let's say that I want to go with provision IUPS, and
Be careful. That's how I got charged.
no, I'm not gonna create it. So it can go up to maximum 64, right? 64. But if I go general purpose, 16 gigabytes. Okay. So minimum is 1, right? So, and it goes, you know, with 2, right? If I put 100, 300. When it gets to 100, start multiply by 3, if I'm not mistaken. You see, start multiply by 3. If I put 4, it will be 200, 1200, I guess. 200, you see? If I put 5, 1500, multiply by 3. And the maximum is 3000 IUPS. So let's say here that I can put here 1000. I think that's the maximum I can go. There's nothing else. If I put 1001, it's gonna give me, yeah, I can go up to, you know, I think that when it gets to 3000, then it doesn't put anything next. Before, no, I think it's 900. Then it has this, but as soon as I put 1000, it disappears, and then it continues going increments of
You put 5,000?
5,000.
Oh.
Increments of 300, right? By 3, multiplies by 3.
Mm-hmm.
Now you can go up to 16. I believe that if I do this, this is gonna be super expensive. Right? 16 gigabits of gigabits, bytes. I'm sorry, not bits. Bits is for speed, right? So if I go to the provision IUPS, then I can go up to 64, right? So I can do here. The minimum is 4. And then the maximum is the size of the EVS volume.
You can put 64 on the bottom, on the IUPS area.
Yeah, it has to be, then we have to use a nitro. That's a different type of instance, more powerful, because you're using 64, and whenever it's greater than 32,000, then you have to use a nitro base one.
When we were doing the provision for the project, I used 22. I think you can go up to 22.
Which one?
Up to 22. But Maro, do you remember when we were doing the
This one or this one?
The IUPS, the provision IUPS, the IUPS part.
22,000?
20 up to 22.
Well, it's maximum 64.
Yeah, but it doesn't. No, this is for if you want to do provision IUPS. See this yeah, with a
Yeah,
provision IUPS.
that's only for general purpose and provision IUPS. Cold doesn't use IUPS. And throughput out.
Right, exactly. So here we have to go, I think we put 22, but it would not allow us to go any further than that because they say you have to do something like a nitro, which I wasn't sure what.
What's going on here? My computer froze again.
It looked like.
Why is this happening? I think my computer is getting too hot.
I'm gonna put you. Do you have a fan next to it?
See, it's not hot. All right, so I would have to restart the computer again, guys. You see my cursor here? Do you see it in the screen?
No.
No. All right, just give me 1 minute, guys. I'm back, guys. Can you hear me, guys?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sorry about that. Sometimes I cannot control that. Okay, so we continue. Let's finish this. So we were talking about poor performance. So we were here using, for example, okay, the CPU load on my Amazon RDS instance is too high. Okay, so some of the solutions that you can do is optimize your queries. Maybe your queries are not well when I talk about the queries, the SQL queries are not written, in the best way possible. So you could optimize that, try to fetch the information that is needed, not everything. Let's say that you need only the name and the last name of a table. You don't bring everything, just bring the name and the last name. Okay, so determine which of the queries are slowest and review them to determine if they can be optimized. Like, for example, you may have some, third-party software that can compare how long does it take from your application to get the information from the database. So you can compare different queries and see which one is faster and get the information that you need. Okay. You can use read replicas. We've been talking about read replicas since the very beginning of the class. That read replicas is for performance. Multi-AZ is for high availability, and read replicas is for high performance. So letting a read replica handle read requests relieves the CPU load on your master RDS instance. Okay. Don't forget that read replicas can be promoted to master. Okay. So ensure that you're using the best instance type. Your queries might require more CPU or memory. Test your queries against more powerful instance types to see if you should switch and use a different type. Like we have T2 micro, T3 micro. We also have db.t2 micro, db.3 micro. So we have the same. They only have the DB, DB acronym in front of the type. Okay. Another error, I get access denied when I make a request to an AWS service. That is something that we have spoken about many times. Verify that you have permission to call the action on that resource. That's for the roles. Don't forget that, roles and policies. If any conditions are set, you must meet those conditions as well. Okay. There should be when you create a bucket policy, for example, bucket, it has some, requirements in the policy. You have to meet those requirements for them to, to access the resources, right? So verify resource policies. If there's a denied in a policy, denies have preference over allow. Don't forget that. Okay. So if there is a deny is going to take first place. So verify resource policies, if any, specify you as a principal and grants you access. The principal is the person or the service accessing the other service. That's the principal. Sometimes when you see a star, that means that the principal can be anything. Okay. Any can access that particular resource. So services like Amazon S3, Amazon SNS, Amazon SQS have resource-based policies. Okay. AWS support options. You have the technical account manager, right? That's a TAM, which is for what support plan?
Enterprise.
Only for enterprise. Okay. So it's a dedicated voice within AWS to serve as you advocate, proactive guidance and insight into ways to optimize AWS through business and performance reviews, orchestration and access to the full breadth and depth of technical expertise across the full range of AWS, and access to resources and best practices recommendations. This guy, he knows what he's doing. All right. Usually AWS interviews you like probably 10 to 14 times. For this guy, I believe that the interviews must be really intense because this guy has to prove that he knows AWS. Imagine how expensive the enterprise plan is. So if you're paying $15,000 every month for a plan, I believe that you're going to demand that your service be excellent, right? So you have to have people that know what they're doing. Otherwise, they won't have customers at that level, right? So you also have infrastructure event management, also known as IEM. It's a common understanding. They have common understanding of event objectives and use cases through pre-event planning and preparation, resource recommendations and deployment guidance based on anticipated capacity needs, dedicated attention of your AWS support team during your event, and the ability to immediately scale down resources to normal operating levels post-event. So when you read this, guys, when you read this pre-event and post-event, what does it come to mind? Remember that we spoke about something that you have to call AWS if your traffic is going to be higher. Remember that there has to be a process for a particular service to be able to cope with the traffic. Remember?
Yep.
What was it? What was the service? Starts with E. Elastic.
Oh, Elastic Cache.
Load balancer.
Load balancer. Load balancer.
You have to call AWS for them to pre-warm your Elastic load balancer. Remember?
Oh, this is the discussion that we had. There was an example of 150 instances. That was in the test.
Right.
150 instances, and they needed to call
Pre-warm.
AWS for pre-warm, but it's
And we see.
is when your
Yeah.
instance goes 20% in 20 minutes. The load goes up 20% in 5 minutes. I think that's what it is.
No, 50%.
50 or 20?
50%. So when your traffic increases 50% for 5 minutes straight, then having more nodes in the Elastic load balancer, it's recommended. Otherwise, your Elastic load balancer won't be able to cope with the traffic. Okay. So AWS recommends 50% for 5 minutes, right? That's what we read the other day, right? Let me see.
Yep.
I don't want my computer to freeze again. Okay. So
I lost that.
When should I pre-warm my Elastic load balancer? 50% in less than 5 minutes. Right? So we have to call AWS. And this is something that you might prevent or might foresee before it happens. Right? Especially for events, right? Like it says here, pre-event, post-event. Okay. Come on. Here. Pre-event, planning and preparation, post-event. Okay, so AWS support options. You have the concierge service, which provides a primary contact to help manage AWS resources, personalized handling of billing inquiries, tax questions, service limits, and bulk reserve instance purchases. Direct access to an agent to help optimize costs to identify underutilized resources. And we have a friend here, trusted advisor, right? Our cloud expert. These guys gives recommendation on cost optimization, reliability, limits, insight into how and where you can get the most impact for your AWS spend, opportunities to reduce your monthly spend and retain or increase productivity, guidance on getting the optimal performance and availability based on your requirements, and confidence that your environment is secure, cost optimization, performance, security, fault tolerance, service limits. All of that is offered by Trusted Advisor. Okay. Don't forget that if there is a triangle, a red triangle with a question mark exclamation point in the middle, that means that there's a warning there, right? There's a warning. But if you see a red circle, the warning is it's yellow, right? But if you see a red circle with an exclamation point, that it's something, it's an alert, something has to be fixed. And if you see a square, a green square with a check mark, it means that everything is okay. Right? Here's the warning. It's like yellow, orange, or probably dark yellow, whatever, orange. It's similar to this color here, up here, which is the color for AWS. One of the colors that AWS uses, the orange color. The AWS Personal Health Dashboard provides. And by the way, guys, what does the Personal Health Dashboard provides?
It defines which instance is working properly or it should be terminated. That information, the elastic load balancer, or
what is the service that gives you an overall view of the entire infrastructure, architecture, or infrastructure, AWS infrastructure, in terms of the services working properly or not working properly? What's the platform? What's the view? Remember?
the Trail or CloudWatch.
Remember this, guys?
Trusted advisor?
No, it's at the AWS health dashboard, something like that. You get to see everything.
You see my screen?
Service dashboard. Yep, that's it. Uh-huh.
Okay. The URL is status.aws.amazon.com. Okay.
And the personal health dashboard is a subset of that, but only for services that you are using.
Correct. That affects you.
Affects you. But it's saying, okay, this system is down in this region. We're experiencing problems in this data center, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. This one is more personalized, right?
Mm-hmm.
When you open a ticket or something, open issues, schedule changes, other notifications, right? So that's the personal dashboard. Let me. Okay. So that's the one. AWS Personal Dashboard provides alerts and remediation guidance when AWS is experiencing events that may impact you. Okay. Personalized view of service health and the status of the AWS services that power your application. You see, it has to do with you, impact you, your application. Forward-looking notifications, you can set up alerts across multiple channels, including email and mobile notifications. Okay. Support comparison. Okay, I think that we saw this already for your cloud practitioner exam, right? Customer service 24/7, 365, the enterprise, the business, the developer, basic. Support forum, all of them. Documentation, white papers, best practice guides, all of them. Now, trusted advisor, full checks, it's only enterprise and business. And then developer and basic is basic checks, right? This is what we call a full trusted advisor, right? Let's see if they have 7 cores. Okay. Access to technical support. You know that enterprise is phone, chat, email, live screen sharing, the TAM, 24/7. This guy is the business, phone, chat, email, live screen sharing. This is only email, developer email only during business hours. And this is only support for health checks, right? So basically, the basic one doesn't get almost anything. Right? Primary case handling. You know, senior cloud support engineer, cloud support associate technical customer service associates. These are the people that are handling the cases, right? Of course, there's no cases in basic. You cannot open a case in basic. They just have customer service, right? Users who can create technical support cases, unlimited in the enterprise, supported by IAM. Unlimited IAM2 in the business, only one person, and with credentials account and account only. Okay, so when it says IAM supported is that you can use a group, a role, everything. Here is only account credentials only. Okay. Now the response times and the case severity, the enterprise critical is less than 15 minutes. The urgent is, well, it's critical is only for the enterprise, right? The other ones don't have critical. Urgent is less than 1 hour for enterprise. It's less than 1 hour, for business, and there's no urgent here in the developer. High is less than 4 hours for the enterprise, less than 4 hours for the business, and there's no high for the developer. Actually, the developer, this makes sense. The developer doesn't contact anyone, right? Not as an emergency, right? This is more from the business people, of the company. The developer only needs some help with developing, but they also have support from their teammates and supervisors and all that, right? When it's normal, it's less than 12 hours. Normal doesn't take that urgent. It doesn't need an urgent response. It's just normal. Less than 12 hours, and normal is less than 12 hours. The same for the three of them. And low, even less important, is less than 24 hours. Less than 24 hours, less than 24 hours. The architecture support, applications architecture, use case guidance, building blocks. The lower you go, the more right you go, you get less support. Okay. Then best practice guidance, the three of them have that. The client-side diagnostic tools, the three of them have that. And now the developer doesn't have anything else. So it is only for the enterprise and business. AWS support API, both of them. Third-party software support, both of them. Infrastructure event management, that's what we spoke about right here. Right here. Let me go back here. This guy. It's only for the enterprise. They have to pay for it, and the business, they have to pay for it. AWS Concierge, only the enterprise. Direct access to technical to a TAM, AWS Enterprise Plan. Prioritize case routing, enterprise. Management business reviews, enterprise. So, guys, you're not paying $15,000 for nothing. You're paying for a good service, right? So they have everything that it takes to have a good response and support, right? Case severity, this is another way to see it, it's just a different way, right? And of course, they take the basic plan out because, it doesn't have anything. It's just basic and free, by the way. All right, so for 12 months. So enterprise plan, all that, 15 minutes or less. The only one that has critical is the enterprise. The only ones that have urgent is the enterprise and business. High, all this, and same thing. So you see that there are a lot of similarities here. The same here, and the same here. And the business and enterprise are the same here. The business and the enterprise are the same here. And only the enterprise have 15 minutes or less, the critical cases, right? The pricing, we saw this already. The basic it's included from the beginning. It has nothing, it's free, right? But when you go to the developer, it's $29 a month, or 3% of the monthly AWS usage. Let's say that you go over the $29 when you use it, it's 3%, right? Greater of 100, 10%, 7%, 5%. This is something that you could go over later, guys. Okay. And 15,000 here, or the percentage, depending on the usage. If it is between 0 and 150,000, then it's 10%, right? So if you use, for example, let's say they use $100,000, it's going to be $10,000, I guess. Okay. The pricing models, business pricing example, enterprise pricing example for 80,000. Oh my God, wait, what? This is a little more, it's a little more broken down. They're telling you here the percentage, right? And then you're giving you just the use cases here. a little more broken down. This is the total, what you're gonna use. All right, 7,000. Of course, it's gonna be more expensive, but you have an excellent service. Right. Now, review. We saw today some of the errors that people commonly come across, and we found some solutions. What you have to check first. It's recommendable, guys, that you go over those solutions again when you have some time, because you may have them in the exam. In the exam, you may have them. So they may give you a case when there's a problem, and then they may give you 3 or 4 solutions, maybe 5 or 6, depending on the question. And then you will have to find the best and the most suitable one, and probably the most cost-effective one. Okay? Do you have any questions? I think it was an easy lecture, not a difficult one. Okay. Do you have any questions, guys? You still here, or did I?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, no, we're still here.
No
questions.
questions. No questions. Sorry, I was on mute.
So
Yeah, me
it's
too.
2:29. We're gonna get 10 minutes break, and then when you come back, I'm going to give someone the floor so that you can have an exam.
Okay.
So you have to start practicing now. I mean, in class and outside class, because the exam is very soon. And I would be so happy if I got some news like the ones that I got for the cloud practitioner, that, like a good traffic of, good vibes were coming in my way, saying, Professor, I passed, Professor, I passed, Professor, I passed. That would be nice too. Very nice. It makes me very happy that you guys succeed. And I'm sure you will. I'm sure you will. So we're gonna reconvene at 2:40. Okay.